Proposition 2 took a while to, shall we say, hatch, since being a state ballot initiative back in 2008 when voters banned cramped cages and crates for livestock. Joining me with a look at the impact on chickens and egg prices are my guest, Frank Hilliker of Hilliker's Ranch Fresh Eggs in Lakeside, and veterinarian Gary Weitzman, president of the San Diego Humane Society. Now, Gary, the U.S. Humane Society was a driving force behind this Proposition 2, this cage-free law, as it's sometimes called, especially because of battery cages. What are those and why ban them?
Yeah, battery cages basically are just as you described it, introducing this. They're cramped caging for upwards of 6-8 chickens per cage, about 67 square inches for the size of that cage, which is really the size of less than a piece of paper for each chicken.
So the chickens couldn't stand, they couldn't
No,
move around,
they couldn't really express
any
any of their normal behaviors, and that was the problem.
Well, now with this new law in effect as of January 1st, what are the confinement, what are the laws now? What is required?
Yeah, interesting. When voters overwhelmingly approved this in 2008, it was really all about the welfare of the chickens. And it's not just chickens, by the way. It's chickens and calves and pigs. So it's really the animals that we so rely on for what we don't see very often, how they are raised for production for us. But basically, it was so that they could express normal behaviors, stand up, turn around, extend their wings, and actually, frankly, be chickens. And thankfully, Californians overwhelmingly approved this legislation, and it's the strongest legislation ever in the United States.
No, Frank, your egg ranch has been in family business, I believe, since 1942. What kind of changes did you have to make to your hen houses because of this law?
Well, what we had to do was we decided to make our first cage-free house, so we had to gut all the cages out and put some cement down, and we went with an aviary style, so we built this big structure that the chickens can play on, and we have toys on there for them, and they jump in and out of the nest boxes and whatnot, and we built that, and then we put chickens in there, and there you go. We have a big cage-free house. And then we have another one under construction, and then we have 3 that we've modified.
Have you had to raise your prices? I assume that costs quite a bit of money to do. Have you had to raise your prices to compensate for this sort of change?
Well, we raised our prices, but not because of this change. It's just because of the egg market went up. We follow the market. When the market goes up, we go up. When it goes down, it goes down. And pretty much it's just a cost of doing business. I wish I could say that because I had to spend $220,000 on one chicken house, I immediately could raise my price. I have to compete with everybody else out there.
I see. Is there a difference between cage-free or free-range label chickens that we already see on the cartons right now, and this sort of a hen house with the extra freedom from this law?
Yeah, yeah. The big difference between cage-free and free-range is cage-free, they're all inside. Free-range means they have access to outside. I thought about doing that, but we have a problem with free-range coyotes.
Okay, so back to the basics on that. Gary, this law applies, as you mentioned, to other livestock, to veal calves, to I think breeding pigs, right? So what about eggs coming in from other states or from other countries? Does it apply to them?
Yeah, actually, that's where this proposition became so powerful. About a year or two later, Governor Schwarzenegger signed in AB 1437, which actually means that eggs imported into the state of California have to comply with California standards. That's led to a number of lawsuits by egg producers across the United States, all of which have been withdrawn or dismissed by current rulings. But that's the real glory of this law, that it's not only California producers like this gentleman
Frank,
who's doing such a great job, Frank, but it's about everyone around the United States and how they produce and take care of those animals whose eggs are coming into the state of California.
So, pardon the pun, but in a nutshell, the other egg farmers that you're competing with, Frank, have to essentially have to adhere to the if they're importing into California. I see. Now, Frank, I'm not being silly here. Have you noticed any changes in chickens' behavior since you have allowed them to be a little freer?
Well, I think what I've seen is probably more natural chicken behavior when they're in cages. They just kind of stood there and would sit down or lie down as best as they could. But now that we've got them out in the cage-free barn, we're watching how they perch, they're dust bathing, they're
Behaving like chickens.
Behaving like chickens, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting watching like the boss chicken, and she'll get a pecking order, and there'll be some other followers. You could tell there are like all these like little groups of chickens that stay together.
So you're noticing it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a lot more on our website about this, kpbs.org. Frank Hilliker and Gary Weitzman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. A reason to celebrate.